Representative Ro Khanna has a new piece of legislation designed to fix a problem that has often been talked about over the past few years, but not much has actually been done. And that is the gradual defunding of the IRS that just happens coincidentally to have the effect of fewer audits of the rich and corporations happening. He has a bill that calls for an additional $100 billion in funding for the IRS over the course of the next decade, with 70 billion of that money going to enforcement. The bill would require the IRS to use the additional enforcement funds to increase audits of the wealthy and corporations, requiring the agency to meet targets of auditing 95% of corporations with more than $20 billion in assets, 50% of individual tax returns with income of more than $10 million, 33% of individual tax returns with income between 5 and 10 million, and lower thresholds below that. It would also increase penalties for millionaires who falsify their tax returns to pay less than they owe. And Ro Khanna has said that he estimates, and this is driven by data provided by people like former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers, University of Pennsylvania law professor Natasha Sarin, and former IRS Commissioner Charles Versati, that it would generate something like $1.2 trillion in federal revenue over a decade without requiring a single dollar of tax increases. And for that reason, I imagine it is gonna have a very hard path to getting passed.
So two things about this. Number one, the IRS has been systematically defunded. They won't defund the police, but they'll defund the IRS. Why? Because that's $1.2 trillion that rich people are cheating on their taxes. And guess who funds politicians? Rich people. So our system is insane. We allow for private financing of elections. So of course, rich people just buy all the politicians. Why? Because they're about to save $1.2 trillion on the cheating alone, let alone the tax cuts, which saves them further trillions of dollars. So now point number two is the excuse that they'll make is, oh my God, look at these no good libs. They want to spend $100 billion on the IRS. The IRS is evil and they're gonna waste all this money. The part they don't tell you is we're gonna get $1.2 trillion back. And it's going to be almost all exclusively A, from rich people, and B, 100% from people who were cheating on their taxes. So, and guys, I just think about it. If somebody said to you, give me $100, you might say, well, I don't know, what am I getting, right? And it's an open question, $100 is a lot. If somebody said to you, okay, give me the $100 and I'm gonna give you $1,200 back, would you do it? Of course! And that's the question Ro Khanna is asking you. And all Republicans will say no. They'll pretend you're just giving the $100, and they won't mention that you're getting the $1,200 back. Kenya.
I mean, yeah, I have about as much faith in this bill as I usually do when I hear law enforcement agencies say that they're launching investigations into their own misconduct. I mean, when you have such a correlation between, keeping taxes for the wealthy low, keeping the IRS against these or off these very politicians, these very wealthy donors, oftentimes donors to both parties. When you have incentive to keep the IRS off of these individuals who later donate to your campaigns, sustain your campaigns. I mean, we're not necessarily going to see this go far. But what I do think we're even seeing is, there's a recognition here. The IRS even acknowledges they don't have the personnel, they don't have the resources, they don't have the funding to go after these billionaires or trillionaires as we're seeing now. And so it's easier for them to go after the low-hanging fruit, those who maybe have had an error on their taxes, or lower income individuals who are easier to audit. And so when you're exacerbating these disparities, and when the Biden administration is saying that these are racial inequities that we want to tackle right away, I'm not necessarily surprised by this legislation or seeing this effort to address these disparities where they are, but I won't necessarily be surprised after that once we again see another dial back of this effort.
And one more time though, I want to give credit to the good progressives that are putting this forward. At least somebody's fighting for you. Ro Khanna is the first Justice Democrat ever. He's never taken corporate PAC money, and look at that, he doesn't serve corporations, he serves you. Funny how that worked out. So support, by the way, there are now a couple of Republican politicians who don't take corporate PAC money either. So if you're a conservative and you want to support them, I get it. I'm gonna disagree with you on the policy, but at least support honest politicians who, and for Republican voters, you definitely have different priorities than I do. But at least those guys not taking the corporate PAC money are in some way serving you. And for progressives that aren't taking corporate PAC money, they're serving all of us. That would be $1.2 trillion that could pay off almost all the student debt in the country. That can get us healthcare, that can get us so many wonderful things if we just stop letting the rich cheat on their taxes.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.